There are some bizarre origin stories amongst Overwatch's cast of heroes. However, a genetically enhanced hamster that came from the moon crash landed into a Mad Max movie and then built himself a mechanical hamster ball with machine guns has got to be the weirdest. So let's take a look at Wrecking Ball's story and how he fits into the world of Overwatch. The early origins of Hammond the hamster are much the same as Winston's. They were both part of the experiments being performed at Lucheng Interstellar's Horizon Lunar Colony. The scientists on the moon base were performing a number of experiments, most notably studying a group of genetically enhanced apes to test the effects of prolonged habitation in space, and amongst them was our old friend Winston. However, we've now learned that other animals were also being studied, including a hamster, who through genetic experimentation grew in size and intelligence. Eventually, most of the ape residents of the moon base rose up and killed the scientists, and this was when Winston decided to make his escape. However, Hammond also tagged along for the ride. He managed to escape his cage about a week before the uprising, and seemed to be using the ventilation system to move around the base without detection. There are reports from the scientists working there of strange noises coming from the pipes, but no one had a chance to investigate before their untimely demise. Winston was unaware that Hammond had tagged along on his shuttle, but according to Jeff Kaplan, the two have been communicating.
Hammond is also good friends with Winston. They're able to communicate to each other, but Winston is not yet aware that Hammond has made his way back to the planet. So that's going to be a bit of a surprise for everybody.
So this is a pretty interesting topic. It implies that Hammond and Winston are friends, at least to some degree, and that presumably Winston still thinks Hammond is on the moon with the other gorillas, who now have control of the base. If we assume that Winston trusts Hammond enough to keep communication open with him, then that would imply that Hammond falls either into a neutral or good type of hero rather than an evil one. Also, he's presumably communicating with Winston via written messages, as Hammond doesn't talk.
That would be completely ridiculous, as we all know.
Now, after escaping, Hammond's pod became separated from Winston's and he crash landed in Australia near Junkertown, the previous home of Junkrat and Roadhog. Within the scrapyard, the Queen of Junkertown hosts a gladiatorial mech tournament, which she was once the champion of. For the people of Junkertown, this is a way for people to blow off some steam as they fight for glory and riches or bet on their favourite fighters. Seeing this, Hammond decided to embrace the opportunity and turned his escape pod into a battle mech that was far superior to all the others in Junkertown, and he went on to repeatedly win their tournaments under the name Wrecking Ball. Hammond was able to keep the fact that he was actually a hamster completely secret throughout all of this, presumably using the mech's AI to communicate. I'm sure that a bunch of insane junkers living in a wasteland wouldn't take too kindly to finding out that they were getting beaten up by a rodent. You can find posters around the Junkertown map that reference a number of the combatants in the mech arena, including Wrecking Ball, meaning that he's been pictured in the game for nearly a year now, with more recent references to him being added to the Horizon map in the latest update. It's also intriguing as to see what kind of view of Earth Hammond got through the Junkers. They have an overwhelming hatred for Omnics, and Jeff was very careful to state that Hammond is not a Junker and that his mech was not an Omnic, and he wanted to make that really clear, which makes me think that this could tie into his future story.
The mech is not an Omnic, and Hammond is not a Junker. These are the most important things for you to know about his background and his backstory.
The mech does have its own artificial intelligence. It refers to Hammond as the hamster and relays messages for him.
He says thank you.
So really, this makes Wrecking Ball two entities, Hammond and the mech. And while Jeff says the mech is not an Omnic to the same degree as Orisa, for example, there are certainly some similarities. So perhaps his story will help to explain what separates an Omnic from a robot with an artificial intelligence. We know that after some time in Junkertown, Hammond decided to depart and set off around the world, so where could he go? Is a visit to Winston his first stop, or would he get caught up in one of Talon's evil plans? Right now, it's really hard to know what his motivation is. Other heroes have clear goals, some fairly straightforward, and others more complex, and we can be sure that Hammond also has things that he wants to do. But what those are remain unknown, and does the mech also have its own desires, or is a lack of goals and aspirations one of the things that separates a robot AI from an Omnic? What are your thoughts on Overwatch's latest edition? I wouldn't expect him to become a core part of the story, but it certainly is one of the most bizarre heroes so far, and now there is no excuse for Blizzard not to make us Jetpack Cat. As always, this is James for Cass, saying thanks for watching, and enjoy the game.